Hi everyone, I've been meaning to do this video for quite some time. I was going to do it for Marion DePierre's Burn Bright channel, but I thought it's probably more fitting to actually do it for my own channel, and I'm going to think of something else I can do for Marianne because I owe her videos. But this is going to be, I guess a recommendation vid where I talk about romances and love stories I actually like, which, as many of you know, probably is quite rare, because I tend to diss on the romance. Often it just, especially in YA, it tends to just dilute and take over plot lines and ruin characters for me and just leave me disinterested and or annoyed and frustrated and things. But every now and then I come across a love story I like. So I've picked books, not only from YA, but just my general fiction as well, where I have actually enjoyed the romance. So I'm going to just randomly show them to you. So we have Heart's Blood by Juliet Marillier, which is Beauty and the Beast retelling, and I'm going to butcher the names because they're Gaelic, but Catherine and Anulan, that isn't right at all, but they're the Beauty and the Beast characters, and I really like how their relationship progresses, and it's just a very clever and beautiful take on the myth, and I really like them as characters individually, and I love their interactions. It's just a really good book, so read it. Okay. This is a book where I also just think that the characters are very sweet together and it's very cute. It's more a middle grade writing style, so it's not, you know, not very steamy or passionate or anything, but very sweet nonetheless between Sidel and the character of North. I think their friendship is actually what I enjoyed even more than when the romance sort of came into it. But yeah, they're just very sweet together. So that's in Brightly Woven by Alexandra Bracken. Here's quite a typical one that I know was very popular with everybody, but Perfect Chemistry by Simone Alcalez actually surprised me with how much I enjoyed it, and it was a very addictive read. So I quite like Alex and Brittany, just a very standard Romeo and Juliet, West Side Story, wrong side of the tracks thing, but I enjoyed reading about them together. And I've not read any of the other novels by Simone Alcalez, but there you go, I did actually like Perfect Chemistry. Okay, the Killer Unicorn series, especially in the first book, Rampant, we've got what I think is actually a very refreshing, surprisingly sweet and genuine romance developing between our protagonist Astrid and a dude named Giovanni, and I like that their relationship progresses in a kind of different fashion. It's not kind of by the book and they jump ahead to things and then go back. And, you know, it's just, it takes a different sort of route, and I like that, and I was, yeah, I was surprised by how much I like Giovanni as a guy character as well. Yeah, he's a decent bloke, so I like him with Astrid. They tried to put a love triangle into the second book. It did not work at all, and I was really annoyed by that, but I like them in this first one. The Mortal Instruments series, yes, I've only read a book and a half in this series. I've read City of Bones, but I'm going to have to reread it because I've forgotten everything. And I've read a bit of City of Ashes, but I know that the only two characters I really cared about in terms of relationships were Alec and Magnus, so that was it. I don't give a shit about Clary and Jason Simon, but I do like Alec and Magnus, so that's that. There you go. The Yelena series, the study series, whatever you want to call it, Yelena and Valak, I like them together. I've only read Poison Study, but I have the other two, so eventually I'll get through that. But I like their relationship in the first book, and how it starts off on a very different footing, very different dynamic to where it ends up, but I like the progression of it. And yeah, I don't know how I'd feel about getting together with the dude who was going to be my executioner, but, you know, I don't think it ever made it feel like a worrying message was getting put forth by what happens. It all carried out quite nicely, so, yeah. Okay, so Eon and Iona, there is relationshipy stuff going on with our protagonist and some people around her, and that's interesting in itself because it's not, especially in the sequel, Iona, it's not so much It is. There is love in there. There is genuine feeling and emotion, but it's more of a power triangle going on in this sequel, and that was very interesting in and of itself. But there's a really, really sweet, really bittersweet, ultimately very tragic, I say romance, a kind of mesh of feeling, because nothing, to our knowledge as readers, nothing ever actually happens between these two, but there's a lot of feeling there, and a lot of it's unspoken between two side characters, and it all ends very sad. It's so sad, but it was really, really sweet too, and very unconventional. I don't want to spoil, but yeah, two side characters. If you've read the books, you probably know who I'm talking about, but that really warmed my heart and always made me smile whenever it was referenced, so it was just very subtle, but it was there, and it was really sweet. Out of the Stephanie Perkins romances that have been going on the past year and a bit, I preferred Lola and Cricket together in Lola and the Boy Next Door, probably because I just preferred Cricket over Etienne in Anna and the French Kiss. I warmed to him a lot more, so I like them together. I thought they were cute. Here's a love triangle that's warped and dark and twisted, but in the end eventually is surprisingly sweet, but still very odd, very, very odd. But the triangle that kind of begins and is established, I suppose, in Ink Exchange, which is the second book in the Wicked Lovely series. But we have Leslie, Neil, and Ariel. And in this book it's more so you get the sense of the two guys going after Leslie, but it's hinted between the feelings that did exist back in the day between Neil and Ariel, and then that kind of takes off in later books when they're all kind of just side characters. But it begins in this book, and it's twisted and odd and strange, and I don't recommend anyone ever entering into a relationship like any of these kids do, but it still makes for very interesting reading and lends a lot to the plot. The plot itself in this book especially is quite depressing and not for everyone. I know that this was kind of the book that divided a lot of readers. They either continued with the series or just stopped altogether because they didn't want to keep going with it, and which is understandable. I've talked to Lara about this before because she had strong feelings about the content of this book, and I can completely understand why. I just found the dynamic between the three of them and the fact that it was actually a love triangle where the feelings went every which way, I just thought that was different and unexpected. I was genuinely surprised by it, so especially with how it progressed later on in the series. So that's that. Then there's some romances in the Gemma Doyle series that the main one obviously being quite standard. It's, you can see the progress of it from the beginning, from the first book, A Great and Terrible Beauty, but we've got our protagonist Gemma and the lad Kartik, and ultimately, if you've read the books, you know it ends very, very sad, but still very, very cute, and I like how they interacted, and I especially liked how it culminated in this book. A lot of people were unsatisfied and unhappy with the ending, which is I can see why, but I liked everything leading up to it. I thought was quite nicely done, and it never overshadowed the plot, the wider plot of the books, and that was good too. I think if anything, actually, and this is rare for me to say, there could have been more time spent with Gemma and Kartik overall in the series. I don't think we actually got as much as we would have liked as readers, but I think that there was a substantial amount of development that went on in this one, and I liked where they were at the end of it all, before things got really sad. But yeah, I liked them together. And then there was a side plot, again, with two characters, and I wouldn't necessarily, well, I guess it was a romance. It was kind of unrequited. I didn't even know what it was, but it was interesting, and it was kind of hinted at from the first novel too, if you look back and look for the signs, I suppose. But the fact that you kind of felt like it could have been in there just for a novelty thing and for the sake of it, and like to sensationalize this idea, especially as these were period novels. But I was actually impressed with where it ended up going and the relevance it had on the plot also. So the fact that it was a tool to get things happening, as well as just, it wasn't just there, you know, to make you go, oh, ooh, how scandalous, but it was interesting. It wasn't a very happy relationship in the end, but it was interesting nonetheless, and if they ever make films out of this series, I would like to see what they did with that. So, Gemma Doyle. A love triangle that I actually find quite, well, I should say I found quite entertaining in the first book, in Eyes Like Stars by Lisa Manchev. We've got Birdie and Ariel and... Wait, what's your name? Nate, the pirate. And I genuinely like Birdie with both of the guys. I find her entertaining no matter what she's doing, but I like how she is with both of them because it's quite notably different between the two. And as characters, I actually like both of them. I think Nate's quite a sweetheart, and I love that he calls everybody lass. He's really cute, and I like Ariel because I just find him interesting and elusive, and even though he has all the traits that the bad boy, dark, mysterious figures tend to come with, for whatever reason it's just 10 times more amusing with him. I think because these novels, the way they're written, are just 10 times more amusing than others are, and I really like the format. And Ariel, because he has the advantage of being a known figure from another work, because he's in The Tempest, and so you kind of get that, I guess, lends it all a bit more credibility, and he has that backstory to go off, as opposed to just being there and being dark and mysterious and aloof and all that. So I like the triangle in the Theatre Illuminata series. I like it. Two Nicholas Sparks romances that I do genuinely enjoy, and not just because I quite like the films, but checking the names again, Landon and Jamie in A Walk to Remember, because it is bloody sad, but it's also nice, and it's sort of a wish fulfillment-y thing where you get the idea of a very popular person going after a not popular person and it all working out. So in terms of like the high school experience for a lot of people, I think it's just a nice dream idea. Not that it wouldn't happen, and not that it doesn't happen. I'm just saying, as a concept, it's quite a dreamlike idea, but a very nice one, and you know, purporting quite a nice message too. So, and I did enjoy the film as well, but I think it was quite sweet. And then as a I guess more adult romance out of the Nicholas Sparks that I've read, and I haven't read many, but I do like The Notebook, checking the names again, Noah and Allie. Is it Allie? Yeah, it is, Noah and Allie. I like them, and I like the concept of how it's structured as well in the book and the film, and what it, you know, what it represents ultimately in the end and things, but I do like that too. Some more adult books. I like An Equal Music by Vikram Seth. It's not very happy. I suppose it's bittersweet. It's quite, I like this one because it's quite realistic and credible as a rather accurate depiction of just modern relationships between adults. And I'm checking the names, Michael and Julia. And I like the association and the wider metaphor of the music and how it relates to the both of them. And just if you want to read a contemporary romance that's not necessarily happy, but very well drawn out and portrayed, then I do recommend An Equal Music. There's an awful lot of music jargon in here, half of which I didn't understand, but it was still very good. Another adult romance that I think a lot of people really like, obviously, The Time Traveler's Wife by Audrey Nimpnegger, and I mispronounce her name every time, I'm sorry. But Claire and Henry, it's very sweet, and it's beautiful, and it's nuanced, and I very much enjoyed it. It took me a while. I had to like start this novel like 3 times before I finally got into it, but in the end I really did enjoy it, and I do think the film was, you know, not very adventurous or all that interesting, I suppose, but it was quite a loyal-ish adaptation, and I like the performances in it. So yeah, Time Traveler's Wife. Then I've got Fire by Kristen Kershaw, and of course I would have Graceling by Kristen Kershaw because I love Katza and Poe. I love them, but I don't know where my Graceling is. Someone has it. But in Fire, I actually very much like Fire's relationship with What's-His-Face. His name is not on the back here, but I liked her relationship with What's-His-Face. I thought it was very sweet. And there was a love triangle in this book as well that actually ended up being quite poignant and sad. I didn't necessarily like her with the other bloke, with Archer. I remember his name. But their history especially, I think, lent itself to the emotional torment she was under a lot of the time, and the fact that she kind of felt manipulated by him as well. It was different. It was a different kind of angle to come at it from. But dude who comes into it later, I don't know what his name is. I've forgotten. Something telling me it starts with maybe B. Anyway, I like her with him. I think it was very sweet, and I'm glad that she was finally happy, because the poor girl was depressed for most of the novel. So, fire and Katza and Poe in Graceling. Really love Katza and Poe. And then here's another example of a triangle I actually did like. Cybel's Secret. We've got Paula on the front here, and hopefully both their names are back here. Back here. Back here. Are their names back here? Their names are not back here. Gosh darn it. Okay, but there's two dudes, two very different dudes that she encounters along the way here, and both have very dynamic, very interesting, very individual personalities, and they have just kind of like how I feel with Theatre Illuminata, in that her interactions with the two of them are so wildly different, but very entertaining and very just very insightful. And I like the fact that she rather like Birdie, never loses her personality and her true sense of self around these guys, which is a good thing. A good thing. So yeah, the fact that you can read about her being with both of them and yet still obtain the sense of who she is, and she knows who she is, and, you know, doesn't lose her her own sense of goals, and just what she wants to do, what she wants to be, where she wants to go, all that kind of thing. None of that is lost when she's with these guys, so that for me is a big positive. Yeah, I quite liked her with the both of them. She ends up with one of them, of course, but I won't tell you who. So that's, yeah, love triangle I liked. And think I've exhausted my selection of, oh, no I haven't. If you've read the Obed Newton Chronicles, then you know who our protagonist Elspeth ends up with. Again, I've forgotten her name, which is so stupid given that I've been living with these books for years and years and years, but yep, no, not on the back either. But if you've read the Obed Newton Chronicles, you know who Elspeth's with, and I really like them, because you just have to, because they're there and they're brilliant together. But that's some romances I enjoy, and as always, given that this book's missing from my shelves, I've probably forgotten a few really good ones. I know that I really liked the romance that was in A Certain Slant of Light by Laura Whitcomb. That's not here though. I think most of the Beauty and the Beast retellings I've ever read I've enjoyed how those relationships have panned out. There was The Fire Rose by Mercedes Lackey. Don't ask me for the characters' names in that, because I will not be able to tell you. But yeah, that's some romances that I do enjoy, so you can see that maybe I'm not a heartless bitch person. I am, however, a very forgetful one, so I'm very sorry for all the names that I can't recall, but yeah, it's romance. I probably should have made this video on Valentine's Day or something, but yeah, there you go. Romances that I don't hate.